Alright, so this is going to be a quick little overview on the rat dissection. I have here in front of me just a picture I found from the internet of a dissected rat specimen. So it's not necessarily the exact same rat that you will see in your rat checkout, but hopefully will serve a good purpose here for a little bit of review and help if you need for studying. So first, whenever I go in for a dissection or a checkout, and I know this sounds probably pretty simple and common sense, I just always want to quickly orient myself. All right, up here is the head of the rat. Down here is the butt of the rat. Now, I realize that sounds dumb, but it makes a big difference when I'm trying to think to myself, where are certain organs placed? I always want to remind myself up here between the head and the arms, this is the chest of the rat. Think to yourself, what's in your chest? You have your heart, your lungs, your ribs, and your diaphragm. So you have those same parts right here then, in between the arms of the rat. Use that as your guide to help you. In the very center of the chest right here, I see kind of a round but slightly pointy end nugget in the center of the chest. This nugget in the very center of the chest, again, in between the arms here, is the heart of the rat. And we should remember again that the function of the heart is to pump and circulate blood. Now, on either side of the heart here and here, there are these brown-gray lobed organs. Those are the lungs of the rat. Again, lungs are in my chest where I breathe. They're on the sides of the heart. The lungs' job then is to bring in oxygen gas and get rid of carbon dioxide gas. The ribs here in this picture have been removed, but you should be able to tell me that the ribs would be here on the sides of the lungs. Pretty common sense. I think we all know in ourselves where our ribs are. Ribs are in the same place in the rat, right? That's why we dissected them. Now to find the diaphragm, it's hard to see in this picture, so listen to my description here. Right here, it's going to be right above the liver. Right below the lungs and the heart is a thin flap of muscular tissue. Notice it's almost like the armpits of the rat. That thin flap of muscular tissue is called the diaphragm, and the job of the diaphragm is to help the lungs fill with air. So right there, we've just covered a few structures, good amount of them. They're in your chest, and they're also in the chest of the rat. And chest is referring to this area from the head to the arms, right in between the arms or armpits of the rat. And again, that was the heart, the lungs, the ribs, and the diaphragm, which is directly below the lungs and heart. Now, I want to take a minute and look at the abdomen and always just kind of take a couple seconds, orient myself. A lot of times kids right away want to tell me that this large thing right here is the stomach or is the heart or even the lungs. Just because it's large doesn't mean it's something you are familiar with or feel comfortable with. This super large, dense, very dark colored organ right here, the one that stands out as soon as you dissect your rat, is actually the liver. We should remember that the job of the liver is to break down toxins in the body and bad blood cells. On the opposite side, there's a small sac here. You might have to dig around a little bit in your checkout in order to find that sac. But this little sac here, meaning it's going to be a little bit larger, not as big as the liver, but noticeably bigger. This sac is the stomach, and the job of the stomach is to metabolize or break down food. Then, probably the most obvious parts here, the squiggly tubes here. These are your intestines. You have two portions or regions of the intestine, the small intestine and the large intestine. The easiest way to figure this out is actually to just take your probe when you're doing the checkout, yank all this crap straight out. The small skinny tube that's attached to the stomach then is the small intestine. And again, the job of the small intestine is to absorb nutrients from the food you've eaten. The thicker tube that's closer to the anus or pubic area or butt here of our rat, that thicker tube is the large intestine. And the job of the large intestine is to absorb water and get rid of food waste. Now the other organs I'm going to talk about, you are not going to be able to see here in this picture, but you can listen to my description and me pointing where they would be. The spleen would be kind of wrapped around this side right here of the rat, keeping in mind that students will have gone through and kind of torn apart this rat through each checkout. You may have to dig around a little bit. It's going to look like a thin, tongue-like flap. Okay, it's skinny, it's red, literally looks like a tongue kind of wrapping around the side here of the abdomen of the rat. And the job of the spleen is to help with your immune system and also red blood cell function. The last organs you'll need to find are going to be the kidneys. You definitely can't see these here. You are going to literally have to scoop out, toss out those organs to the side of the tray when you're doing your checkout, and the kidneys are going to be underneath all of this, and they're going to be right along its back, along the lower abdomen. To you, you might think the kidneys kind of look almost like tumors along the back of the rat, like these swollen masses. So it's an easy way to identify them. Sometimes kids, even with a glove on, will feel around for that noticeable bump. Again, the kidneys will be right around here along the back of the rat. So to get to those, you'll have to scoop out the intestines. And the job of the kidneys is to filter the blood. And that's it on the rat.